Y'all have been on my neck about reviewing the movie Sinners. So here I go. Here I go. But baby, let me just tell you, it's so many things about this movie I could talk about. I have notes that I wrote while I was watching the movie and added to after the movie. Baby, I got like over 20 something lessons. I could talk about the black history. I could talk about the cinematography. But of course, we gonna start with what I know most of y'all are here for, and that's the spirituality in the movie. Let's get into it. So many of y'all were telling me, Queen, you gonna love Annie. Queen, you gonna love Annie. And baby, let me tell you, I love me some Rootworker Annie, and we gonna get into the power of the hoodoo woman of this film. But first, I got to give credit and talk about the deep root working, conjuring, spirit calling star of this film. Sammie, come on to the front, baby. Root worker Sammie, conjurer Sammie, ancestor talking Sammie, medium Sammie, come on to the front, baby. Because see, Sinners is a film about the smokestack twins. But what it really is centered around is this character, Sammie, who has the gift of playing the guitar. He has the gift of singing the blues, of music, right? And this gift is something that was born into him. He doesn't know why he's drawn to it, but he is. Now, the film opens up in a church with everybody dressed in white, which is hoodoo, okay? Being dressed in white when communing with spirit is a practice our ancestors brought from Africa. Playing the blues as told to Sammie by his elder Delta Slim, played by the amazing Delroy Lindo. We gonna get into him. We gonna get into Delroy. Delta Slim explains to Sammie that Christianity, that religion was taught to you, but this blues was born into you. Our ancestors brought this over and we have held on to it. So Sammie is well aware that the blues is a spiritual practice. It's a historical practice. But the film opens up with his father, the pastor, telling him, you don't need to be playing that guitar. You need to put that guitar down because that guitar calls on devils. But it's not devils that Sammie is conjuring with the guitar, it's ancestors. See, we have to give credit to the guitar in the film. It's more than just an instrument, it's really a character. This guitar is the thread that ties the entire film together simply because it belonged to the father of Smoke and Stack, the twins. The father is now an ancestor. Sammie has the guitar now. The guitar is made of wood and silver, which were two of the elements, two of the roots that could be used to defeat the enemy, which was the vampires, right? Now let's tie this all together. When Sammie plays this guitar, he is able to conjure the spirit of ancestors. He is able to lift the veil between spirit realm and physical realm, and this is beautifully displayed in that juke joint scene. The beauty of the juke joint scene is that you get to see the ancestors from different cultures dancing on the floor with people of present day as well as future selves. And once again, religion has conditioned, has indoctrinated us to believe that it is evil, it is demonic to connect with ancestors. It is demonic to have the gift of sight and be able to see the future when you connect with the spirit realm. But it's quite interesting because all throughout the Bible, people are communing with ancestors. Jesus himself is technically an ancestor, and he's communed with all the time. They eat the flesh and drink the blood in representation, and they call it communion, right? But then they tell us that speaking to our ancestors and honoring and venerating our ancestors is evil. That is the sin. The indoctrination through colonization is the sin. And I have to give love to Delroy Lindo for brilliantly playing the role of Delta Slim, because Delta Slim is an elder to Sammie, and what he's doing is he's teaching Sammie his lessons. See, Delta Slim has been through a whole lot. When he's in that car ride with Stack and Sammie sitting in the back seat, he's telling Sammie of the trauma that he experienced watching his friend be lynched. And what Ryan Coogler brilliantly does is he doesn't necessarily show the brutality in physical form on the screen, but you can hear it as Delroy Lindo, Delta Slim, is telling the story. You could see the effect of the brutality while hearing the brutality. And I thought that that was such a beautiful cinematic feature. Now, what I love the most about that scene is that you can clearly see that the trauma has affected Delta Slim so much, but he's using it as a lesson for Sammie. And that lesson is being taught when Delta Slim is feeling the emotions, but he immediately turns it into blues. He immediately turns it into music. He transmutes the energy of that pain. He alchemizes it into song. And that is why it's not a sin to play the blues, but through the eyes of the church, carrying on this ancestral practice makes you a sinner. Through the eyes of the elder blues players, forgetting your history and stopping this ancestral practice is the true sin. Therefore, we are all sinners. Now, of course, I have to acknowledge and give love to the beautiful hoodoo woman of the film, the root-working woman of the film, and truly one of the saviors in the film, and that is Annie. Annie did an amazing job of using her knowledge and intelligence as a hoodoo woman to defeat the enemy, which was the vampires, and we're gonna get into that, okay? But let's acknowledge the fact that it was beautiful to see an amazing, deep, melanated, full-figured woman be a love interest in a movie to a beautiful, amazing, handsome man, Smoke, played by Michael B. Jordan. And what I love so much is that it wasn't just a physical love they had, it was a spiritual love. Annie and Smoke balanced each other's energy so beautifully because she was a strong, intelligent, root-working woman and a protector in her own right. He was a strong, intelligent, powerful, protective man in his own right. The balance is that she is a spiritual protector. He is a physical protector. Smoke acknowledged that he is a soldier. He knows that he can protect physically. He's willing to take out whoever and whatever to protect what is his. And she protected him as well as everybody in the juke joint through the power of root. She gave Smoke a mojo bag before he left, and when he returned, protected from that mojo bag. And although he tried to run and act like he ain't know, she had to remind him, you don't know that it's that mojo bag that's been keeping you. It's the root that's been holding you this whole time. And she got the mojo bag back and she blessed it again. They showed her praying over it. They showed her with the candle in front of her. Matter of fact, let me show you. See, in this scene, she's blessing the mojo bag, and you can see she has her herbs smoking in the smudge bowl. She has her candle in front of her. She also has her holy water or her Florida water. See, when a lot of people think about Florida water, they think of the cologne that's usually sold in the stores and botanicas. But real Florida water is made at home with your own hands. And it's usually made from some type of distilled water or purified water or spring water that's infused with some herbs. You can also use any type of alcohol, usually a rum or a gin, and infuse that with herbs as well. And that is your homemade Florida water. And the herbs you would use are herbs that are aligned with protection as well as blessings, okay? So you can use herbs like bay leaf, like basil, like thyme, like pine needles. You can add citrus like orange and lemon. You can also add some sea salt to it. You can also add some cloves, some star of anise to it as well in order to bless it. Pimentos and chilies are good in your Florida water as well, okay? So it looks like she's blessing the bag with some Florida water and she prays over the bag. Now, in the mojo bag, you would usually have a variety of herbs and some coins and anything else that was aligned with the intention that you have for the mojo bag. We saw Annie making a mojo bag when they first entered her shop, and she was putting High John the Conqueror in it, right? Which is often used for protection work as well as justice workings. So we know that the mojo bag was already made and had some things in it and had been protecting Smoke. So she just freshened up the mojo bag and blessed it again. again. And she gave him back the Mojo Bag at the juke joint. Now, what is so beautiful is that Mojo Bag protected Smoke throughout the entire film. And at the end, when he was ready to go, he snatched the Mojo Bag off. We're going to get to that part. Now, I have to acknowledge that Annie is a savior beyond just the Mojo Bag. Annie is one of the saviors in the film because as a hoodoo woman, as a Rootworker woman who ain't new to this, she's true to this. Annie had the knowledge. So when adversity came in the form of the vampires, Annie immediately started going into her hoodoo root-working woman Rolodex of mental knowledge and wisdom. And she said, hold on, is this a Haint? And she explained what a Haint was. And I want to be clear, the term Haint is used in Gullah Geechee culture all the time. It is now more widely used across hoodoo practitioners as a whole. A Haint is what is seen as a negative energy that has the ability to transfer spirits or souls within a body, okay? So she explained what a Haint was, and then she quickly realized after a few interactions, really after she saw that Mary wasn't harmed by the pew-pew-pews from Smoke, she said, hold on, this ain't a Haint. I think we're dealing with vampires. And she explained that a difference between a Haint and a vampire is that the Haint can transfer souls. The vampires are trapped souls. And she was able to immediately distinguish the difference. And once she identified that it was a vampire, as a root-working woman, she said, hey, we need this to make up some Goofer dust. You got to get that garlic. You got to get that wood. You got to get some silver. We're going to need some holy water. She immediately started thinking of a potion. And I want to be clear, that's a real root. Using ground silver in potions and roots is done to this day in spells as well. Silver can be used for protection as well as for healing, okay? Garlic is also used for protection as well as for conjuring work. You also have the holy water or the Florida water, which can be used for many different things, as well as all types of wood are used for different and with different intentions and workings. So she's giving real root in this film, okay? But she immediately knew what to do. She also knew how to test whether or not people were vampires by having them eat the garlic and look at their response. See, that's a real hoodoo woman. That's a real root worker. You have to have that knowledge on tap, on hand, because you never know when the opposition is going to show up. Another thing I have to acknowledge about Annie as a hoodoo woman, as a root-working woman, is that she was always considering ancestor realm. See, Annie had through some bones, so she knew what her fate would be. She knew what was going to happen to her. And she made an agreement with Smoke that, hey, if I get bit before I turn, you got to take me out so I can make it to ancestor realm to see my baby. She knew that if she turned to a vampire, her soul would be trapped and she would live forever. She didn't want that. She said, you got to take me out so I can make it to the ancestor realm and see my baby. And that's exactly what happened. Annie made it to the ancestor realm. And in the end, when Smoke had snatched off that Mojo Bag because he was ready to go, he had took one for the team. He took a pew for the team. He was slowly transitioning, and Annie and their baby, who were both in ancestor realm, appeared. And I thought this was a beautiful scene because Annie and the baby were draped in white, signifying that they had made it. They had crossed over to ancestor realm. And she told Smoke, I need you to put that cigarette down because I don't want no smoke on this baby. And that was a double entendre, meaning she didn't want the energy of the soldier. She didn't want the energy of the warrior. She wanted him in his pure form, and she called him by his given name, which was Elijah. She said Elijah and handed him that baby, which was a sign that Smoke himself likely made it to ancestor realm. Now I say likely because they opened it up at the end with a mid-credit scene that alludes that we could get a sequel, and we don't quite see Smoke draped in white, so we don't know if he fully crossed over to ancestor realm. It's possible that he did an ancestor walk, which is what happens when you are about to transition and the ancestors come. So we don't know for sure that Smoke is an ancestor. This opens it up for a sequel where there could potentially be a battle between Smoke and Stack, who is a vampire, who is a trapped soul. And we see in the mid-credit scene that Stack has made it to the 90s and that he is fully engrossed in that vampire life, aka colonization. Now, when we are talking about the overall lesson of the movie Sinners from a spiritual perspective, we are talking about the impact of colonization on identity. The vampires represented colonization, indoctrination as a result of colonization. And I say that because Remick, who was the Irishman, who was the leader of the vampires, he had acknowledged that his land, Ireland, was colonized. And he remembers when the land was colonized and what that did to his people. And as somebody who is a trapped soul and has lived forever, he is promising everybody, if you allow me to trap you, you can join us and get the freedom that you desire. And freedom is all Sammie and Smoke and Stack and everybody wanted. They just wanted to experience freedom. That's why Delta Slim kept on drinking, because he was trying to cope with the fact that he never felt free. And he explained that to Sammie, that freedom ain't really something that we have. So when Remick, the Irishman, is promising, if you let me trap you, you'll have freedom, he shows the ring shout scene where Remick is doing his Irish dance from back at home. And he has all of these people that he has trapped, all of these vampires practicing their culture. He's showing that, hey, it's freedom on this side, but it's not true freedom that they have. It's the continuation of colonization, because what he is doing is exactly what the colonizers have done. They're coming and they're taking life and they're taking control. They're sucking the blood and the energy from various cultures. Remick kept telling Sammie, I want your music. I want your blues, which is an example of what happens in actual life. Through colonization, people practice what's called cultural appropriation. They have indoctrinated us to believe that our ancestral practice and our culture is evil, it's demonic, it's a bad thing. Meanwhile, they appropriate it and practice it so that they can feel the freedom that many of us desire to experience and that we have the ability to tap into when we connect with our ancestors, when we get the gift of sight to be able to see what is come. That is true freedom. But we've been indoctrinated through colonization to believe that that is evil, while they are taking our practices, shape-shifting them, and trying to pretend that they are their own. So the vampires represents colonization, the continuation of colonization, and the real lesson of the film is that regardless, they want to call you a sinner, but they are the true sinners, okay? And you notice that at the end, Stack walks into that bar and he's wearing a Jesus piece. Stack is a vampire. He is a trapped soul, and he's wearing that Jesus piece representing the continuation of colonization. And baby, that's just one of the many lessons. I wrote down like 20, y'all. I'm gonna do another part.